Jake is a good kid. He's got a big heart. He's usually happy, easygoing. He has a fairly normal life for what he's dealing with. Jake has LCHAD, which is a fatty acid oxidation disorder. It basically means he does not have the enzyme to metabolize long-chain fat. So he's on a very low-fat diet, and he needs to eat carbohydrates frequently because he can't really use fat reserve as an energy source. If we don't manage Jake's diet properly, he will go into rhabdomyolysis, which is muscle breakdown. It's very scary because not only can he sometimes not walk, he's in a lot of pain. Sometimes when he's really sick, he's ended up in the intensive care unit, and sometimes for days to weeks at a time in the hospital. It's a complicated disease. It definitely affects a lot of different parts of his body. Jake has a lot of doctor's appointments. He sees his metabolic doctor, a dietitian, a GI doctor, an ophthalmologist, a neurologist, a cardiologist, and his primary care or a pediatrician. Right after Jake was born, he was very sick. He had low blood sugar. He wasn't very responsive. His coloring wasn't good. They did a blood test. I think we got a diagnosis within roughly a week or so of him being born. The doctor told me that he might survive a few years if we were lucky. We then got a lot more information about the disease and a little bit more hope. We were able to find a clinical geneticist that specialized in metabolic disorders. After seeing the metabolic doctor a few times and being linked up with a dietitian, we realized that through diet and frequent feeding and a close watch that he could be okay, but it was going to be a long road ahead. Of course, Jake was very sick as a young child, and he was literally in the hospital probably every 4 to 6 weeks. It was a big struggle trying to get Jake to eat on time. It felt like all I did was watch the clock and feed him and then refeed him. He just didn't eat enough and vomited frequently. It was like there was no light at the end of the tunnel. As Jake's gotten older, the ability to manage his disease at home has gotten much easier. Jake has a G-tube, also called a gastrostomy tube, now permanently placed in his stomach. So if he doesn't feel like eating, it's an alternative way to feed him. It's definitely made life a lot easier. I can put medications through the tube, and it gives him a source of fat that he can use as energy. He takes 4 ounces of formula 3 times a day, and then before bedtime at night. I think of LCHAD as an invisible disease. You literally would not know by looking at him that he has this underlying disease. Jake also has autism, and people can see that he has autism and they can notice some of his social deficits, but they can't see the LCHAD at all. And the LCHAD, in my experience, has been much more of a struggle to live with and to deal with. It's definitely been really challenging managing Jake's care alone. My parents have been a huge help. I really couldn't have done it without them. His disease is just so complicated that I really can't leave him with anybody else. Jake's metabolic doctor recommended that he start exercising, low-impact exercise. So he has been able to enjoy swimming, which is his favorite thing. He's a very good swimmer, and he loves to swim laps, and that's been excellent for him. We try to limit the amount of exercise that he has at a given time. So we try to limit him to an hour at a time. If he goes any more than that, he's definitely at risk for muscle breakdown. I'll often give him a tube feed before exercise, so we make sure that he's well fed. Now that Jake is getting older, he's much more aware of his body and what he needs to do, which is a huge help. I couldn't ask for a kid to deal with this any better. It's very frustrating sometimes just living with a rare disease. I'd love to see in the future there'd be more treatment options for LCHAD, more research going on. Being a rare disease, it doesn't get a lot of attention, but we try to count our blessings and look at the positive side of things. I mean, you know, sure, we have our days that we think, oh my God, this is a lot to deal with, and then we have, you know, other days that I'm like, you know, he's doing it, which makes me really proud.